Hello everybody, I am Chris Baker from Lucky Gunner, and today we are taking a deep dive into Revolver speed loaders. I've got an overview of 10 different speed loaders that I've been testing, plus a look at speed strips, moon clips, and a couple of other loading devices. I'm going to go through how each one works, the pros and cons, and share my impressions from testing them on the clock. Like I've mentioned many times before, using a speed loader in an actual self-defense situation is pretty much a fantasy. It could happen, but you would be an extreme outlier among outliers. They're also bulky, kind of a pain to carry. So why am I about to spend so much time on speed loaders? Mostly because it's just fun. Of course, they are necessary for action pistol competition, but even if you don't compete, there's just something satisfying about executing a smooth, fast reload with a revolver. I did a speed test with each of these loaders, but don't read too much into the numbers. This is a very subjective kind of assessment. I don't practice revolver reloads regularly anyway, and I've only got significant range time with 2 or 3 of these loaders. Having said that, I think the numbers do a decent job of showing which loaders are easier to work with and which ones have kind of a steeper learning curve. I did 10 timed reloads with each device. I used a Smith & Wesson Model 64 for every loader that has a K-frame model available. For the 2 loaders that do not, I used a Model 640 J-frame. Each loader was deployed from a Safariland Speedloader holster. I used the same reloading technique every time. It's not the quickest possible technique, but it is the one I can execute most consistently. A couple of things to keep in mind when we evaluate these loaders. First, fit is extremely important for speed loaders. The hardest part of the reload is getting the cartridges correctly lined up with the chambers. But it's a lot easier if the rounds stay fairly rigid in the loader and it's designed for your specific gun. Sometimes the manufacturer will claim that a loader fits revolvers from multiple companies or product families. It may or may not fit all of those models equally well. You might want to look around for feedback from other users of your specific revolver to find out which loaders fit best. The revolver's grips also affect how well speed loaders work. If their grips don't have enough clearance, the body of the loader might get stuck, which can slow the reload or sometimes prevent the loader from working altogether. And finally, the prices I'm going to mention for each of these loaders are the MSRPs. You may be able to find them for a lot less depending on where you shop. All right, now let's take a look at these speed loaders, starting with the twist style loaders. They are the most common style, and they all work more or less the same way. The HKS speed loader is probably the most widely recognized, with a catalog of 20 different models supporting dozens of different guns. Place the rounds in the holes, and then you just twist the knob counterclockwise to lock them in place. When you want to reload, grab the loader by the body, not by the knob. Line the rounds up with the chambers, drop it in, give it a clockwise twist, and the rounds drop right in. Like all of the twist style loaders, the HKS relies on gravity. There is no spring to help push the rounds in, so you have to make sure to hold the revolver as vertically as possible when you're loading. You might also have to pin the cylinder in place so it doesn't just spin around when you twist the knob. At just $10.99 a piece, the HKS is the most affordable of all of the speed loaders, and they are widely available. It had been a while since I had last used an HKS loader with a timer, and I was surprised at how quick it was. It ended up being the second fastest non-competition loader that I tested. They might seem kind of cheap, but if you just need a decent speed loader, HKS is a solid option. The 5-star speed loaders are similar to the HKS, but they offer an even wider selection with 38 different models supporting dozens of revolvers. Priced between $19.95 and $24.95, they're kind of like the premium alternative to the HKS. They are all aluminum, but they operate on the same basic principle as the HKS, with one difference: the 5-stars twist clockwise to load and counterclockwise to release. The direction you turn the knob would seem to be a pretty insignificant detail, but I found the counterclockwise twist did not feel quite as natural. I'm not sure why, but ultimately my average speed with the 5-star was right on par with the HKS. Pachmayr offers a more limited selection with just 5 models covering the most common revolvers, but they do get bonus points from me for making a 32 model. It's aluminum with a larger knob than the other two. It's functionally the same design as the other twist loaders. Like the 5-star, you twist the knob clockwise to load it and counterclockwise to release. The rounds sit on top of a rubber O-ring inside the loader, which makes them feel a little more secure. They don't rattle around as much. Overall, it just feels like a more serious piece of equipment than the other two twist loaders. That quality comes at a price between $32.50 and $34.98 each. I ran into an issue with this loader during the speed test. The rounds would not go deep enough into the chambers to release them unless I jiggled the loader a little bit. I got pretty good at doing this after the first couple of runs, so the average time was only a little slower than the 5-star, but it was an annoying flaw for what is otherwise a very nice loader. These next speed loaders all have a push to release design. I'll start with the gravity release models and then we'll look at the spring powered loaders. The Safariland Comp I is available in just 2 models, one for 5-shot 38 J-frames and another for 6-shot 44s. There are different ways to load these. The way that I found easiest is to hold the loader upright, drop the rounds in. If they jiggle around freely, that usually means they're aligned correctly. Then while you keep it upright, push the knob in and turn it clockwise. This can be kind of tricky to do because the knob is not very big. Some people press the rounds against their palm or the table while they twist the knob, but that's never really worked very well for me. The rounds are released from the loader when the post that's in the center here presses against the center pin in the cylinder. So to load with the Comp I, you do not press or hold it by the knob. Instead, you grip the body of the loader, press the whole thing in there until it clicks, and that's releasing the rounds. And there you go. At $21.50, they're a pretty good value for a loader that's easy to carry but still reasonably fast. The grips on our 640 may not be the best for speed loaders. They're slimmer than any of the other J-frame grips I have, but there still was not quite enough clearance for a clean release with the Comp I. Honestly, that's an issue with most J-frame grips. There's just not much room for speed loaders on these small frame revolvers. So the numbers I got were not all that impressive, but that could be improved with the right grips. The Safariland Comp II is the big brother of the Comp I. They make 2 models, one for K-frames and the other for L-frames. Loading them is the same as the Comp I, except that the knob is much wider and easier to turn. To load the gun, hold the body of the loader, press it against the cylinder, and it releases the rounds. The MSRP is $21.50, but you can usually find them for about $5 less. This is the loader I've used more than any of the others. It's compact, but with the potential to be very quick as long as you hold the revolver as vertically as possible. My average speed for these was quicker than any of the other non-competition loaders. That's at least partially because I have more range time with them, but they're not difficult to get the hang of. I think they are the best balance of speed, size, and cost. I just wish they supported a wider range of revolvers. The Revision CV Ammopod is another gravity-fed speed loader available in 4 models, all for small frame revolvers. This one has a post with a pin in the middle. Drop the rounds in and then push the pin until it clicks. The rounds rattle around a little bit, but it does seem fairly secure. To load, just push the body against the cylinder and the rounds drop right in. At $14.95, they are one of the more affordable options in this category. Like the Comp I, the Ammopod also did not work well with the grips on our J-frame. I had to jiggle the loader around almost every time to get it to release the last couple of rounds. The 22 version might be better, but otherwise I would stick with the Comp I for a J-frame. Okay, this is where it really gets fun. Let's look at the spring-powered loaders. The Safariland Comp III. This is the classic speed loader for competition. It's available in 2 models supporting 6-shot K-frames and L-frames. It's got a plastic body with a center post attached to this knob and a single big spring. You load it just like the other comp models, drop the rounds in, push the knob in as far as it'll go, and rotate clockwise. The knob can be a little stubborn, so I actually do find it easier to push the rounds against my palm when I'm loading this one. To load the gun, hold the loader by the knob, insert the cartridges, and then push the bottom of the knob. That releases the spring, which pushes the rounds in. It is very fast. You don't have to worry nearly as much about the orientation of the gun. The giant knob makes it easier to grab and manipulate. You probably would not want to carry a Comp III outside the range. It's just huge for something that only carries 6 rounds. At $28.50, they are more affordable than the other spring-powered options. The Comp III was the second fastest loader overall in my test. The length has always felt a little bit awkward in my hands. I would need more practice to get a consistent release. But overall, they are very quick, and I completely understand why they're still a popular option in competition. The Jet Loader is available in 3 models covering 38 J frames, K frames, and L frames. The design is very similar to the Comp III. The Jet Loader's knob is not quite as long and the spring is exposed, but otherwise the designs seem nearly identical. It loads up just like the Comp III, drop in the rounds, push and twist, and it releases the same too. Insert the rounds and push the knob. The Jet Loader feels a little more substantial. It holds the rounds a bit more firmly than the Comp III. They are priced between $39.95 and $45.95 depending on the model. That makes them among the more expensive options. What you get for that price is the fastest loader on the market, at least for me. The size is just right, and I found it easier to release than the Comp III. My times with this loader were not only faster than any other, they were also more consistent with just over a second between my quickest and slowest times. Beez offers 56 different models covering almost every revolver on the market. The design is unlike all the others. It's very similar to the old Dade Speedloader from the 1970s. The body is polymer with an aluminum knob and a spring-loaded post. The cartridges are held in place by the spring that wraps around the body. When you push the knob, the plungers force the rounds out. To load it up, all you have to do is stick the rounds in the holes. The rim slips past the spring, and that's it. Grab it by the knob, insert the rounds, and push to release. The Beez can be very fast, but there is a problem with some models. The rounds can kind of splay out so that they no longer line up with the chambers. With the K-frame loader, this issue caused very inconsistent performance with nearly 3 seconds between my fastest and slowest runs. But I have Beez loaders for other revolvers that don't have this problem, like this one for the SP101 in 327 Magnum. Even though the rounds have some play, they snap right back into position. It will load every time with no problem. Another issue with the Beez is that if you drop one, at least some of the rounds will fall out every time. If you carry one of these outside of the range, you will want to make sure the whole loader is covered and protected. At $42.95 for most models, they are on the expensive side, but despite the shortcomings and the price, I enjoy using them. When they work, they are really nice loaders, and they're available for a lot of guns that have very few speed loader alternatives. The SL variant speed loader comes in 7 models, covering the most common 38 frame sizes and 6-shot 44 Magnums. These were originally made by a company in Germany called Longwitz. They have kind of a legendary status. A lot of revolver enthusiasts used to consider them the best loaders ever made. They stopped production around 8 or 10 years ago, but then in 2022, someone in Japan started selling what they call a precise replica of the SL variant. The originals were around $60 each, but the new ones are between $32 and $35. They use individual springs for each cartridge. To load it, you simply press the round in until it clicks, hold it by the body or the knob, and press to release. There's an extended competition-style knob available that screws right onto the original knob. I had some of the original SL variants, and unfortunately, these are a sad imitation. The originals were adjustable. You could push in this post in the center and rotate it to fine-tune the angle of the rounds. The new ones are not adjustable. The bigger issue, though, is that the rounds don't stay correctly aligned. The SL variant is the only loader I used where I had this happen, and it happened more than once. When the rounds did line up, the release was very clean, but the alignment problem made this the slowest of the K-frame loaders. I did try another 10 runs with the extended knob installed. That did make it a little easier to get the rounds aligned, and my times definitely improved. It was still quite a bit slower than the Comp III or the Jet Loader. Now, as a disclaimer, I did buy these over 3 years ago, so there's a chance the newer ones are improved. If not, there is no way I can recommend the replica SL variant. Okay, that's it for what we would traditionally call speed loaders, but let's look at some other loading devices, and we'll start with moon clips. Moon clips are essentially just thin pieces of sheet metal specifically designed to hold revolver cartridges together in a circular pattern. You drop the entire unit, both the clips and the cartridges, into the cylinder, and they remain there during firing. This makes moon clips generally the fastest method of reloading a revolver. Ejection is also much more consistent since all of the spent shells are linked together and eject as a single unit. Revolvers designed to fire semi-auto cartridges like 9mm or 45 ACP almost always require moon clips because they lack the rim for the extractor star to grab onto. Rimmed revolver cartridges don't need moon clips, but the cylinder can usually be modified to accept them. So, if moon clips are the fastest reload method, why don't all revolvers use them? Well, the main reason is their lack of durability. Moon clips are notoriously fragile. They can be easily bent during handling or even just from loading and unloading them. Even a barely perceptible bend can cause the cylinder to bind or prevent it from closing. Now, the only moon clip revolver we had handy for the test was a 9mm LCR. It's not the ideal example because the small frame revolvers are inherently a little slower to reload. But even with this limitation, the moon clip reloads were very quick. Only the Jet Loader and Comp III performed better. Speed strips might be the most common way to carry spare revolver ammo, despite being notably slower than the other reloading methods. Technically, the name speed strip refers to the original Bianchi product, but we tend to use the term for any of the similar devices. They're all very inexpensive. They usually come in a 2-pack for $10 to $15. Most are designed for 5 and 6 shot 38s, except the Tough Products quick strips, which come in at least 19 models for everything from 22 long rifle all the way up to 12 gauge shotgun shells with varying lengths. Speed strips are made with different types of flexible polymer or rubber. Just pop the rounds into the recesses. To load, you insert the rounds 2 or 1 at a time and peel the speed strip away. I like the quick strips because they have an 8-shot version and I can load only 6 rounds in it. I leave a space in between the pairs of cartridges because it makes them a little easier to load that way. A lot of revolver guys use the same approach with 5 or 6 shot strips loaded with only 4 rounds. The Zeta 6 J strip already incorporates these spaces into the design. A drawback of the quick strips is that they tend to deform after repeated use. The first pair of cartridges often splay outward, which slowed down some of my reloads a bit. In my testing, the speed strip reload from a pocket was predictably the overall slowest method by far. I also tried just loading 2 rounds with the J strip. It was faster, but I burned a lot of time indexing the cylinder, so it was still pretty slow. Speed strips are popular because they're extremely flat and pocket friendly. They're slow, but they're much quicker than loading loose rounds from a pocket or a dump pouch, and they're also just a convenient way to transport ammo. Zeta 6 has a couple of other interesting loading devices that are kind of in the speed strip family, but they're also unique. The K-clip and J-clip are basically speed strips, but in a circular pattern. It turned out to be a lot quicker than I thought it would. It's certainly more compact than any speed loader. The biggest issue I had with it is that sometimes 1 or 2 of the rounds would come out of the cylinder when I peeled away the K-clip. You have to yank on this thing pretty hard to get it to release the rounds. The Zeta 6 K-Pack is a double-decker speed strip that allows you to load 3 rounds at a time. There are different ways to configure it depending on your preference and what hand you're loading with. I'm not sure I was using the quickest method. It was not a ton faster than the quick strip, but it was more consistent. This might be worth considering as an upgrade over a traditional speed strip that's still very flat and easy to carry. Okay, the last loading device I want to look at today is the Wrapid loader. For $49.99, you get an all-steel loader and a leather carrying case. It consists of 6 spring-loaded cartridge holders linked together. When you let go of it, they coil up into a ball roughly the same diameter as a K-frame cylinder. To load it, you have to unroll it and hold it open while you slide each cartridge in. The case holds the device flat so you can carry it. To deploy it, you grab the ring and pull it from the case. You have to use your left hand for this. Then insert the cartridges. This is the tricky part. And then pull the ring to release. I tried timing a couple of reloads, but it quickly became clear that I would need to invest a lot of time practicing with it just to reach basic competence. It's finicky to load and overall just kind of frustrating. I like the creativity, but I am not sure it's all that practical. If you're looking for a solid second opinion on some of these loaders, check out the Revolver Guy blog. A few years ago, Justin Carroll did a similar speed loader test, but with even more detail, if you can believe that. After all this testing, I am sticking with the Comp II as the best all-around speed loader. The other standouts are the HKS for a surprisingly good bargain. The Speed Beez are great just because they support almost every revolver ever made. And the jet loaders, of course, win for pure speed. But to be honest, if you really want ammo delivered as quickly as possible, you should get it from us with lightning fast shipping at Lucky Gunner.